Hey everybody, welcome to the rulebook review. Today I'm taking a look at the Forces of Order, Battletome Stormcast Eternals for Warhammer Age of Sigmar 2nd Edition, which goes up for pre-order today. Now this will be my top things type review again, where I'm not going to go through absolutely every single change. This is a very big Battletome. The Stormcast Eternals have, I think, probably the most units of any army in the game, and they just got a whole bunch more. So having spent about a week with this book now, I'm looking through and basically doing the highlight reel of what's changed as far as your, of course, allegiance traits, your new sort of like artifacts and stuff for some of the new character types, and then the new character and unit types themselves, and we'll kind of focus on that stuff. There may be some stuff that's changed just inside the existing unit types that I may not have picked up on yet because I haven't played with them, honestly, going back and forth through both Battletomes is a lot of work, so I may have missed some stuff. So take everything with a grain of salt. If it's missed, there might be some things in here, obviously, that I won't notice the first sort of like pass through. But we're going to focus on all the stuff that's new and exciting. So let's get this started. As per usual, we'll start with allegiance traits. So the allegiance traits, Scions of the Storm are still in this Battletome, which previously meant that any Stormcast Eternal unit could be held off the table and then arrive on the board 9 inches away from the enemy. Basically a deep strike for the army. What it is now is it doesn't require a dice roll. It's automatic, whereas before it would be a 1-2 they wouldn't arrive, 3-4 or 3+ they would. Now it's just automatic, but it's a 1-to-1 ratio. For every unit you set up on the table, you can set up 1 in the Celestial Realms. So there's a bit of a give and take. The whole army can't drop all at once, but you don't have to like worry about it not happening the turn that you want it to happen. It's automatic. They just show up anywhere on the table, not within 9 inches of the enemy, and do their usual sort of like Space Marine Storm Strike thing. Now there's a new trait as well called Shock and Awe. The turn that a unit of Stormcast is set up on the table, you are -1 to hit them with missile and melee attacks, which is really cool because it means that if you are doing this and you fail a charge, so if you don't necessarily get into charge range during the course of that like drop when you sort of arrive, you're a bit more defensively oriented that turn. This pairs really well with the endless spell Chronomatic Cogs, where you can bring your Stormcast on, speed up time with a wizard, and then have them all get additional bonuses to their charge moves. And of course you can spend CPs to reroll charges as well. So a really nice combo, Shock and Awe, Signs of the Storm, and of course the Chronomatic Cogs, I think are going to be something you see quite a bit on the table as you just want to like assault and murder something basically. And then finally we have Storm Hosts. In the previous book, Storm Hosts were a War Scroll battalion, so you didn't get to pick a Storm Host for your army to be from. Now it just adds a keyword to the army and you unlock, much like the Enclaves in the Idnith Deepkin book, a Storm Host for you to take part of. Now there is a drawback to that, and that's the fact that if you pick a Storm Host, your commander trait for your general, your commander trait for your general, and your commander trait for him, as well as your first artifact given to a hero, are now fixed, which means you have to start buying War Scroll battalions to get additional ones. So if you like them, that's cool, and they do give lots of cool benefits, but it does kind of stick you with what you have. So let's go through those right now, because they're the last allegiance trait you can do, and they're totally optional. You don't have to do them. So the 8 different battle hosts. The first one that we'll look at is the Hammers of Sigmar. Now they are the first to be forged. It's their ability to get across the battle host, and that means they add 1 to all their bravery characteristics. And they also have a command ability called Soul of the Storm Host. Your Redeemer units, and that means Liberators, Steelheart's Champions, and Sequitors, are so numerous that if they're destroyed on a 5+, they just come back onto the table anywhere in the battlefield. That's bonkers. To get a 200-point 10-man unit of Liberators and just have them come back is bonkers. Now it does cost you a CP, and you have to roll a die and make it a 5 and hope like get a 5+. So it's not automatic like the way it is with some armies, but it's still pretty neat. It's risky, but it's pretty neat. If you have a big unit come back, you could just have it happen. Now the person that you want to have that happen with, oh, I don't know if it still works actually, I was going to say if you could get the Lord Celestin Prime to do it. I don't think he can set that dice roll though. There's a list of what he can do now. Yep, no, he cannot do that. It's not any dice roll for him. He has a fixed list of things he can change dice rolls to now. As well as the Luck Stone, which is it's an artifact that you could use, which could potentially change a roll. And no, it's only hit rolls, wound rolls, save rolls, and random damage characteristics you can set with that one too. So no way to affect this roll, but you can recycle Redeemer units potentially on a 5+, which is pretty cool. But at the risk of a CP basically. And then they have a command trait, which is we cannot fail. Roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to a Hammer Sigmar unit within 9 inches of the general, wholly within 9 inches of the general. On a 6+, it's negated. So he gets to negate wounds and mortal wounds. in a small bubble. And then an artifact of power, Guard Forged Blade. Pick one of the bearer's melee weapons. If the unmodified hit roll of this attack is a 6, add 1 to its damage characteristic for that attack. So it's kind of cool. It's a bit gimmicky, honestly. And because there's a roll, if it was automatic, it'd be really cool. Because there's a roll, I'm not sure exactly how good Soul of the Stormhost is, but still kind of neat. Then we have the Hallowed Knights. Only the Faithful is their ability that they all get. If a friendly Hallowed Knight unit is affected by a spell or endless spell, roll a dice. On a 6+, ignore the effects of that spell on that unit. Kind of cool. Command ability, Holy Crusaders. You can use this command ability at the start of your hero phase. If you do so, pick a friendly Hallowed Knights unit within 9 inches of a friendly Hallowed Knights hero, or wholly within 18 inches of a Hallowed Knights hero that is the general, and add 1 to the run rolls and charge rolls for that unit until your next hero phase. In addition, until your next hero phase, that unit can still run charge later in the same turn. And the command trait, Martyr's Strength. This is your general, and they must have these. Again, like I said, you don't get to choose. These are not optional. Roll dice with general slain in combat phase. On a 2+, this general can pile in and move. So make a pile and move, and then attack with all of its melee weapons before it's removed from play. So it's a last gasp sort of ability, which just is automatic. And then Artifact of Power. The first Hallowed Knights hero gets the Parchment of Purity. In your hero phase, heal 1 wound allocated to the bearers. Kind of cool, some built-in healing. The Celestial Vindicators are next, driven by Vengeance. You can reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by Celestial Vindicators units that made a charge move in the same turn. Righteous Hatred. You can use this command ability at the start of the combat phase. If you do so, pick a friendly Celestial Vindicators unit wholly within 9 inches of a friendly Celestial Vindicators hero, or wholly within 18 inches of the general. Add 1 of the attacks characteristic of that unit's melee weapons until the end of the phase. Kind of neat. They are driven by Vengeance, which is reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by them if they make a charge move in the same time. That's their ability, it's unilateral. And then their command trait, Single-Minded Fury. Each time you make an unmodified hit roll of 6 for this general, add 1 to the damage characteristic of the attack. Artifact of Power, a Storm Rage Blade. Pick one of the bearer's melee weapons. At the start of the combat phase, you can add 2 to the attacks characteristic of this weapon until the end of the phase. If you do so, subtract 1 from his save rolls. So he goes bananas, and his saves go down, but his attacks go up, which is kind of cool, depending on who you're fighting with. So for instance, if that was like a Lord Celsin on Dracoth, charging with a Tempest Hammer, he could do a lot of damage on the charge, and maybe not worry about being fought back. Then we have the Anvils of Heldenhammer. Their ability is No True Death. You can reroll failed battle shock tests for friendly Anvils of Heldenhammer units. They can just reroll them. Heroes from Another Age. You can use this command ability in your hero phase. If you do so, pick a friendly Anvils of the Heldenhammer unit wholly within 9 inches of a friendly Anvils of the Heldenhammer hero, or within 18 inches of the general. The unit that can attack with all their missile weapons it's armed with, or make a pile-in move and attack with all their weapons, melee weapons that they're armed with. So you can get a free pile-in and fight, or you can get a free round of shooting basically, which is kind of neat. That one's actually pretty cool to consider if you're going to spend CPs on a Celestar Ballista that can shoot with its shooting weapons in the hero phase. And yeah, that's the one you want, because the Lord Ordinator lost that ability. So being able to shoot with your missile weapons, that's pretty cool. It's any unit too. So you could make, for instance, Lord Celestin Prime fight again if you wanted to for a CP. And he could do it himself. He could do it himself because he is a friendly unit within 9 inches of himself. That's kind of cool. Actually, he might not be able to do it, because let's just see if he's got a keyword that is fixed. Because the Celestin Prime, he's kind of above everybody else, so he might not be from a certain chamber, but I know some of them have their own keywords. Nope, he can be for anybody. So the Celestin Prime can totally do that. But for instance, then one of the new characters, Aventus Firestrike, he's a Hammer Sigmar guy, so he's not gonna be able to do that stuff. Same with Vandus Hammerhand and Astria Soulblight. They're all Hammer Sigmar guys. In fact, almost all of the special characters are all Hammer Sigmar. They're not from any of the Stormhosts. So the Anvils of Heldenhammer aren't gonna be able to take those guys and have them use their ability. Then there's the Knights Excelsior. You have the Storm of Annihilation as their ability. If a friendly Knights Excelsior unit makes an attack roll, it destroys an enemy unit. You can reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by the Knights of Excelsior unit for the rest of the battle. And then Command ability, No Mercy. You can use command ability in your hero phase. If you do so, pick a friendly Knights Excelsior unit wholly within 9 of the hero or 18 of the general. You can reroll wound rolls of 1 for them until the end of the turn. Knights Excelsior General for the command traits. Divine Executioner, add 1 of the damage characteristics of their melee weapons. Kind of cool for free. And then their Knights Excelsior hero can get the Chains of Celestial Lightning artifact power. Once per battle in your hero phase, the bearer can attempt to bind an enemy hero or monster within 3 inches. If you do so, roll 3d6, your opponent rolls 2d6. if it targets a hero, or 3d6 to a monster or hero monster. If your roll is higher, and then until the next hero phase, have its move characteristic run rolls and charge rolls, and have the attacks characteristic of any of its melee weapons and round any fractions up. You basically bind it with lightning. You throw lightning at it and it like chains it down and it can't do stuff. It's kind of cool. I mean, it's 3d6 versus 2d6 against most things, so you want to pick on little guys, but against big folk, maybe not so good, because you try and roll higher on 3 dice. Celestial Warbringers, the next one, they're kind of the wizard battle host, and they have a Fearless Foresight at the start of the first battle round. After determining who is the first turn, before the first turn actually begins, pick D3 friendly Celestial Warbringers units and set them up again with any of the usual setup restrictions. So you can relocate D3 units, which is kind of neat. And that's cool because that's actually a trait you can take on other folks to make them make a 5-inch move. And this is just to relocate anybody. Command ability, Astral Conjunction. You can use this command ability in your hero phase. If you do so, pick a friendly Celestial Wizard. Warbringer's Wizard within 9 of a hero, or wholly within 18 inches of a friendly Warbringer hero. So you could do it to, I guess the thing is you'd be able to do it from a hero to like a unit of maybe Evocators, who are all unit of wizards, or the heroes could just do it themselves if they're already wizards. And they get +1 casting rolls until the end of the phase. Command trait, Celestial Warbringers General must have this. Portents and Omens, once per turn, You can reroll a failed hit roll, failed wound roll, or a failed save roll for attack made against this general. And that's turn, not battle round, so I'll be able to do it during my turn and also the opponent's turn. So basically twice per battle round you'll be able to do that. And then Artifacts of Power and Hammers of Augury. At the end of each combat phase, you can pick one enemy unit within 3 inches of the bear and roll a die. On a 3+, take a mortal wound, and you get to roll another die. On a 4+, take another mortal wound. So these like big celestial like lightning hammers are just floating around you, smiting people that get too close, which is kind of cool. There may be my pick of the list. If I was going to do a battle host that was fixed, the Celestial Warbringers are pretty cool because their magic-y stuff is neat, and the resetting units up is really neat. And they have a good solid set of command traits and artifacts. Tempest Lords, their ability is Grand Strategist. So at the start of your hero phase, roll a die. On a 4+, you get an extra command point. So that's cool. Maybe double down on command points, half the rounds basically. Command ability, Rousing Oratory. You can use this command ability at the start of your combat phase. If you do so, pick a unit wholly within 9 inches of a friendly hero, or 18 inches of the general. You can reroll wound rolls of 1 for attacks made by that unit until your next hero phase. So shooting and melee. And the command trait is Bonds of Noble Duty. Add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by the general's melee weapons, while they're within 6 inches of any other friendly Tempest Lords units. So if he's got a unit from his army nearby, if alone he won't get it. If he's got a unit nearby, he'll be able to do it. And then Artifacts of Power, Patrician's Helm. If the bear's on the battlefield, each time you spend a command point, roll a die. On a 5+, you receive 1 extra command point. Important to note, of course, all those fixed special characters that are all Hammers of Sigmar wouldn't be able to qualify that command trait. And then Astral Templars is the last one. Their ability is Beast Stalkers. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by an Astral Templars unit that targets a monster. So +1 hit, it's kind of cool. Command ability, Cut Off the Head. Use command ability at the start of the combat phase. If you do so, pick an Astral Templars unit that's wholly within 9 inches of a friendly hero, or 18 inches of the general. Until the end of that phase, add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by that unit that targets a hero. So again, a bit situational, one's against monsters, one's against heroes. And then command trait, Dauntless Hunters. After setup is complete, but before the battle begins, friendly Astral Templars units wholly within 12 inches of the general can move 6 inches. That's kind of neat. That's probably the best ability from this list, to be able to just like jump forward 6 inches at the start of the round. That's kind of neat. And then God Beast Plate, subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks made by a monster that targets the bearer. So -1 from monsters. All 3 of those are situational. The move one's the only one that would really be useful all the time. And those are our 8 battle hosts. So let's move on to the sort of fun stuff, which of course will be the artifacts, and of course the spells, prayers, and the new mount abilities and stuff like that from the book. So the Artifacts Power list hasn't changed that much. There are some differences to the traits. Consummate Commander now gives you CPs as opposed to its form ability, and Staunch Defender is wholly within 9 inches as opposed to 6 inches, different from previous. Other than that, the traits are the same as in the last Battletome. Your artifacts, the armor artifacts, you get +1 Dispel for the spell shield on all wizards. So if you have the spell shield, it's going to give you an extra unbind. Sorry, not +1 Dispel. You get +1 Dispel attempts if you're a wizard carrying it. So previously it was you could unbind as if you're a wizard. Now it's if you're already a wizard, you get +1 attempts to dispel, so you get a digital unbind. And if you're not a wizard, you get to dispel as if you're a wizard. So it kind of it made it a little bit better if you're putting it on a wizard that exists, because there wasn't any Stormcast wizards beforehand, so they kind of doubled down and made it a little bit better. Then Staunch Defender is now, sorry, not Staunch Defender. The standards have changed. All the other Heaven Wrought armors and artifacts templates are the same. Staunch for your standards, you have the Hurricane standard. It's different now. It's any roll gets to rerolled, not just one. So previously you reroll rolls of 1s for charges and runs. Now it's any rolls at all, you get to reroll. So if you don't like your run roll, you don't like your charge roll, you can reroll it. But it has to be wholly within 12 inches of the standard. There's also the Lichbone standard. It used to be 1 unit, got healed nearby. Now it's every unit wholly within 9 of the standard, heals 1 wound at the start of the hero phase, which is also pretty cool. The Pennant of Signarum stayed the same. For your Mystic Lights, they've changed quite a bit. The Shriving Light has changed to -1 bravery for enemies nearby, and -2 if you're chaos, as opposed to adding to battle shock tests. It just reduces your stat, which is a bit neater. And then the Mystic Light, the Tempest, sorry, not the Tempest, Lantern of the Tempest. It used to be within 12 inches, so now it's wholly within 12 inches of the bearer. So it used to be within, I think, 6, now it's wholly within 12. It seems like everything that was like within 9 before is now wholly within 12 to try and keep you within sort of like a bubble. Whereas previously you could just kind of stand nearby and daisy chain out. They've tried to remove most of the daisy chaining. Then there's some new stuff, and this is the actual new stuff. There are Celestial Staves that can be given to the Lord Arcanum and Knight Incantor only. There's a Staff of Focus. Once per battle in your hero phase, the bearer can use this artifact. If they do so, add +1 to casting rolls until the end of the phase. In addition, the bearer casts a spell that inflicts mortal wounds. Add 1 to the number of mortal wounds affected, so that's pretty cool. If you get D6 mortal wounds, D6 +1. If it's just an Arcane Bolt, it would be 2 mortal wounds, or D3 +2 if you get the big version off. There's a Mind Lock Stave. Once per battle at the start of the enemy hero phase, you can pick an enemy wizard within 12 inches of the bearer, and that wizard cannot cast any spells. Oh, sorry, Nagash. Just shuts you down and Mind Lock them. There's no roll, there's no ability to dispel it. They just stop you from casting spells. That would be a giant kick in the teeth, Nagash. And there's the Staff of Azir. In your hero phase, if the bearer successfully casts any spells that are unbound, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks that target the bearer until your next hero phase. So you kind of like absorb stuff. And then you shines a light and everyone's -1 to hit him. It glows really bright, kind of like Gandalf's staff. And there's Scrolls of Power, which are again Knights Incantor and Lord Arcanum, because they both have a scroll they get, and they can get a special one. Scroll of Unraveling, once per battle at the start of your enemy hero phase, if the bearer can use this artifact. If they do so, in that hero phase, enemy casting rolls that are equal to spell's casting value are unsuccessful, and the caster suffers D3 mortal wounds. So you don't have to beat the roll then when you unbind. If you tie it, they're unsuccessful, and you take D3 mortal wounds. Ha! If you exactly tie it. If you get more though, you don't take the mortal wounds because it doesn't say that you do. Scroll of Condemnation. Once per battle in your hero phase, the bearer can use this artifact. If they do so, pick an enemy hero within 12 inches of the bearer. Until the end of that turn, add 1 to the wound rolls for attacks made by Stormcast Eternals that target that model. Kind of neat. And then Storm Scroll, once per battle in your hero phase, the bearer can use this artifact. If they do so, pick up the 6 different enemy units in the battlefield and give each of them a number from 1 to 6. Then roll a die. If the unit whose number is the roll, they take D6 mortal wounds. So basically you just count 1 through 6, if there's 6 units on the table, and then you roll a die. And if you get whatever number you roll, basically is the one that takes the mortal wounds. Now, of course, for the first time, the Stormcast also have Spell Lords, and this is pretty neat. Spell Lords are all brand new, and there's 2 lores. There's actually the Lore of the Storm, and that can't be cast by Evocators. The units of Evocators and the Evocators riding beasts will not get to actually cast any of these spells. They're just for your Lord Arcanum and your Knight Incantors. And there's the Lore of Invigoration, which can be cast as additional spells by the Evocators. The Evocators all have spells on their War Scroll, and they can cast these ones too, or each unit can pick one of them to cast. There's 3 Lore of Invigoration spells and 6 Lore of the Storm spells. So Lord of the Storm, we have Lightning Blast. It's a casting value 5. If you cast it, the closest enemy unit that's visible takes D3 mortal wounds. It's 40k Smite. It's literally just 40k Smite. Because they changed Arcane Bolts, they gave them a version of Smite. Starfall, casting value of 5. If you successfully cast it, pick a point in the battlefield within 12 of the caster it's visible. Roll a dice for each enemy within 3, and on a 4+, they take a mortal wound. You can call it combat down and it explodes. Thundershock, casting value of 6. If successfully cast, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 6 inches of the caster that's visible to them. On a 4+, they take a mortal wound. In addition, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by that unit until your next hero phase. It's kind of cool. You kind of like make the ground erupt and they all fall down and can't hit you. Azurite Halo has a casting value of 5. If successfully cast, pick a Stormcast Eternals unit wholly within 12 inches of the caster that's visible to them. Until your next hero phase, each time you make an unmodified save roll of 6 for that unit, the attacking unit takes a mortal wound. So, kind of cool if you're going up against like little stabby guys like Skaven, like hordes of Skaven or hordes of like even just Bloodbound, like Blood Reavers, where they do a whole bunch, they make you make a whole bunch of saves. Every 6 you get unmodified, so no rend affects it, does a mortal wound. So kind of cool. Chain Lightning. Each successful cast is on a 7, and if successfully cast, pick an enemy unit within 24 inches that's visible. The unit suffers D3 mortal wounds, and then roll a dice for each enemy unit within 3. On a 4+, they take mortal wounds. It leaps around in lightning chains. And finally, Stormcaller has a casting value of 7. If successfully cast, roll a dice for each enemy unit on the battlefield. 6+, they take D3 mortal wounds. So really good against many small unit armies. If there's like 7 to 12 units in the table, that's a good one, because you're basically getting 2 old arcane bolts off or 2 smites off per turn if you're getting 12 or more units, because you should get a couple 6s. And there's a Lord of Invigoration, which is available to Evocators, and also the regular wizards too. They can pick this if they want. You have Terrifying Aspect, casting value of 5. If successfully cast, pick a friendly Stormcast Eternal unit wholly within 18 inches that's visible. Until your next hero phase, subtract 1 from the bravery characteristics of enemies within 3. Make them spooky scary. They'll get Galadriel'd up, basically. Then the Celestial Blades, and those are a casting value of 5. Pick a friendly Stormcast Eternals unit wholly within 18, invisible. Add 1 to wound rolls for that unit's weapons during next hero phase. And then finally, Speed of Lightning, casting value of 5. If cast, pick a Stormcast Eternal unit wholly within 9 inches of the caster that's visible to them. You can roll charge rolls into the end of next hero phase. Speed of Lightning is kind of cool, but you can use CPs to do that anyway, so I don't know how good that one is. Celestial Blades is really good. Terrifying Aura depends on the army, because if you're Courage 10 bad guys, -1's not going to do much. Prayers of the Storm Host. So now these have changed quite a bit, actually. One's been renamed. So Translocation has replaced Lightning Chariot, which was the one where you could pick up a unit and throw it around 24 inches away. For the most part, they've stayed the same. So Blessed Weapons changed a little bit. It's now wholly within 18 inches for a range. Bolster Faith, units within 9 inches are affected. 1 unit wholly within 9 inches is affected on a 3+, as opposed to previous ranges. I think it was a 4+ before. Lightning Chariot became Translocation, and Translocation is no longer 3 inches, it's within 9 inches, but they have to be wholly within 9 inches of the priest. On a 3+, you set them up anywhere in the battlefield, not within 24 inches, anywhere in the battlefield, more than 9 inches from the enemy units, and it counts as their move in the subsequent movement phase. So it's a bit better than it was, because it's not a 24-inch range of the priest, it's just anywhere you want them to be, and it's not just within 3 of the priest, it's wholly within 9. So a little bit further out, probably, as far as being able to pick up a unit and throw it wherever you want. And then finally, we have the Abjuration. Abjuration is you have to pick an enemy wizard now that's within 12 of you, and then on a 3+, that priest can then unbind a spell in their hero phase later on. He becomes a wizard for that turn. And the last one's God King's Aspect. It's a lot like the other one, where it's no longer a plus to Battleshock test for the enemy, it's -1 of their bravery. So it's going to be on a 3+, -1 bravery to enemy units within 6 inches. So they've just done, in every case where previously it added enemy Battleshock test, they've just subtracted from the stat now, because I think it's just a bit cleaner of a way of doing things. And then we have mount traits. And the mount traits are almost all either like mixed around or changed or moved a little bit. So I'm going to go through them. Do I want to go through all of them? No, I'm just going to go through the first one, which is Traits of the Noble Beast. There's now a table. It's just available to everybody. So it doesn't matter which of the types of mounts your hero has. This one's just available to all of them. Lithe Limbed, +1 movement. Keen Clawed, if the unmodified wound roll for an attack made by this mount's melee weapon is 6, then it gets -3 rend. And then Savage Loyalty, if this mount is slain by wounds or mortal wounds inflicted by an attack made by an enemy unit's melee weapons, roll a die. On a 4+, that enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. So those were previously mixed into other traits, and now all the other sort of keywords have 3 traits as opposed to the 6 they typically had before. In the other book, there was like 6 Dracoth traits, 6 Stardrake traits, and 6 Griff Charger ones. Now there's 3 Dracoth, 3 Stardrake, 3 Griff Charger, 3 Taurolon, which is the new type of monster, and 3 Dracoline ones, which are the lions. Oh, pretty cool. So for the Dracoths, you get Drakekin, which is before determining damage for an attack, this target has a damage of other than 1 on a 5+. it gets changed to 1. So if you get hit by a multi-damage weapon on a 5+, it just drops the damage down to 1, which could be super handy fighting things like Spirits of Dearth or whatever that have a damage of 6 or D6 or something. Thundercaller, this model's Storm Breath ability has a range of 16 rather than 12 for your Dracos, which is pretty cool. And then Pack Leader, add 2 to the attack characteristic of this model's Claws and Fangs while it's within 6 inches of any friendly Dracothian guard unit. So the hero, if he's nearby a unit of like-mounted models, he'll get plus to his attacks. The starter gets only 3 abilities now. He gets Ancient Powers, which is, he gets, it's called Ancient Powers at the table. He gets Stormwinged, which I think is the same as before. After this model's moved, you can pick one enemy unit that has any models that's been passed over on 2+, they take D3 mortal wounds, so they just like get lightninged as he flies over, basically. Thunderlord, the Rolling Thunder head for this model's Lord of the Heavens abilities has a range of 24 instead of 18, and Star Branded. Subtract 1 from the number of wounds allocated to this model when determining how much damage, which row on its damage table to use. So it's a bit tougher, basically, when you pick like what damage level it's at. There's the Griff Chargers. They get Windrunner. When this model rides the Winds of Etheric, roll an extra die. Ethereal Stalker. When this model is set up, choose an enemy unit. You can reroll failed hit wound rolls, attacking that unit with Beaks and Claws. And then Indefatigable, you can reroll runs for this model. And then we have the new stuff, the Taurolons. They get Swift Wing, reroll runs. Lashing Tail, at the end of the combat phase, you can pick an enemy unit within 3 inches and roll a die. On 4+, they take a mortal wound. And then Steel Pinions, roll a die each time a wound or mortal wound is allocated to this model. On a 6+, that wound is negated. Savage Temperaments are for the Draco Lions, these are the lion things. Bounding Leap, this model is eligible to fight in the combat phase if it's within 6 inches rather than within 3. It can move an extra 3 inches when it piles in. So it moves, it's eligible to pile in within 6 and then can pile in 6. Pride Leader, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by friendly Draco Lion units, so within 9 inches of him. So, wholly within 9 inches, so he's good, he can lead a unit of the Draco Lion Riders. And then Ear-Bursting Roar, at the start of the combat phase, you can pick an enemy unit within 3 inches of this model and roll a die. On a 4+, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by that unit until the end of the phase. So he basically gets the stomp that the Tree Lords have in Sylvaneth. And that is our new stuff. So that's all the allegiance abilities we've been through. Now we've been through all of the new artifacts, spells, and of course mount traits. So let's talk about new units now before we get on to War Scroll battalions, because I think it's going to make more sense talking about those after we talked about the new units. Now, a lot of these new units we've seen already as we've gone through the Soul Wars box sets. I'm not going to talk about them. I am going to talk about the newer stuff up for pre-order, or that will soon be up for pre-order that's in this book that is not the stuff from the Soul Wars box. So first we have Aventus Firestrike, who is a Hammers of Sigmar Magister of Hammerhall. And it's the Wizard on Toraline, the big character Wizard on Toraline. Of course, that kit, I believe, also makes the generic Lord Arcanum on a Toraline model. Has as its melee weapons the Staff of Hammerhall, 2-inch range, 4 attacks, 3+3+, -1 rend to D3 damage, so basically the same as the Lord Arcanum staff. And then has Horns and Stamping Hooves for a 1-inch range, 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1/2 damage from the Toraline. It can fly, moves 14 inches, 10 wounds, 3+ save, and a 9 bravery. So not super tough, but pretty durable. More durable than the Celestin Prime. Has a Comet Trail ability. At the end of your movement phase, you can pick one enemy unit that they pass across, and you can add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by missile weapons used by friendly Stormcast units at a target in the same turn. So he marks a target as he flies over top of it. It would mean you get pretty close though. Cycle of the Storm, once per turn when a friendly Stormcast turn model is slain within 18 inches of this model. Instead of removing it, it's the same as Lord Arcanum's ability. It heals 1 wound. Remember, that ability doesn't work against things that leave trailing damage though. So if you did 3 damage to a 2-wound unit, that last one would kill that guy. So you use that ability when you've taken exactly the right amount of damage to die. Otherwise, the next wound just kills whoever that was. Meteoric Strike. Roll a die for each enemy unit that's within 1 inch of this model after it's made a charge on a 2+ take a mortal wound, so it just slams into people basically. Righteous Indignation. Each time a wound is inflicted by a melee weapon is allocated to this model on a 5+, the attacking unit suffers a mortal wound. They get mad and get zapped basically. Spirit Flask, same as Lord Arcanum's. Thunderhead Crown. In your hero phase, heal 1 wound allocated to this model, so you just gets to heal a wound every turn. That's pretty cool, built-in healing. And then magic, he is a wizard. He can cast 2 spells and unbind 2 spells, and he knows Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield, and Pyroelectric Blast. In addition, the Arcane Bolts that he unleashes are fueled by Primal Electrids. The Primal Electrids is the same as the Lord Arcanum. It's old Arcane Bolts is D3 mortal wounds, and if you get the big one off, it's D6. And then Pyroelectric Blast, It has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick a point in the battlefield within 9 inches of the caster that's visible to them. Draw an imaginary line 1 millimeter wide between them and the closest part of the caster. Each unit, apart from the caster, that has any models beneath the line takes D3 mortal wounds. So he Hadoukens 12 inches. It's actually almost exactly the same as the Amaranthine Orb that the vampires have, but with a shorter range. So not quite as good as the Amaranthine Orb. There's longer range. I think it even does more damage. And then Fiery Orator is his command ability, which of course you'll have to take if he's your general. But of course I'm going to use command abilities now. You can use this command ability at the start of your combat phase. If you do so, pick a Hammers of Sigmar unit. So again, he won't be much use if you pick a different battle host. Wholly within 12 inches of a friendly model with this command ability. Add 1 to wound rolls for attacks they make until the end of that combat phase. So he's kind of neat. I don't know how much better he is. The Hadouken Pyroelectric Blast is pretty cool. I don't know how much better he is than a Lord Arcanum on a Toralon. Who, of course, that kit will also make, or you could just use him as one. So if you did want to play a different battle host, that model kit obviously is still totally valid. We have Astrea Soulbright. She is the I guess, Lord Arcanum on a Dracoline special character for the Hammers of Sigmar. 12-inch move, 3+ save, Bravery 9, 7 wounds. Has the Aether Stave, which is the exact same as all the other staves, 2-inch range, 3+3+, 4 attacks, -1 rend, and D3 damage. And then Monstrous Claws in the Dracoline, 3 attacks, 1-inch range, 3+3+, -1, and 1 damage. They're not super fighty. And then Cycle of the Storm, once per turn, exactly as the rest of them. You can save a guy within 18 inches and they get a wound back, with all the same sort of like limitations for applying damage. Has a Spirit Flask, just like all the other Incantors and Arcanums. Supernatural Roar, subtract 1 from the Bravery characteristic of enemy units within 3 inches of a friendly, 1 or more friendly Dracolines. That's just a generic Dracoline ability. And then Thunderous Pounce, you can reroll charge rolls for this model. In addition, the damage characteristic of the Monster's Claws is D3 instead of 1 if they make a charge. They're more fighty when they charge, basically, as opposed to when they're standing still. And then she's a wizard. She can attempt to cast 1 spell in your hero phase and unbind 1 spell. She has Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield, and Lightning Pulse. In addition, she gets Prime Electrodes. All of these Lord Arcanums are going to have the Prime Electrodes ability built in. Lightning Pulse has a casting value of 5. Roll a die for each enemy unit within 12 inches of the caster that's visible to them. And a 5+ take a mortal wound. So it's just a big... I guess not quite as good as the Knight Incantor's Storm spell. Prime Electrodes. If this model successfully casts Arcane Bolts, same as before, it's D3 and D6 if it's big. And then Soul Energy of the First Host is her command ability. You can use this command ability in your hero phase, your shooting phase, or the combat phase. If you use it in the hero phase, pick a friendly unit of Hammer Sigmar Evocators wholly within 12 inches of this model. That you can automatically cast Empower with no casting roll and can't be unbound. Shooting phase, if you use this command ability in your heroes, the Hammers of Sigmar Castigators within 12, they can use both powers, and then the same with the Sequitors, they can use both powers as well. So she has all the usual Lord Arcanum abilities to affect the stuff from the Sacrosanct Chamber. Vandus Hammerhand, same as before. Now Black Talon, Gavriel Sureheart, Farstriders, Steelheart's Champions, Lord Arcanum on a Toralon. The Toralon has exactly the same abilities as the one that special characters riding. Has the Comet Trail, has Cycle of the Storm, Meteoric Strike for its charge rolls, Spirit Flask. But he knows Lightning Orb as a spell. He also has 10 wounds and the exact same stat line, 3+ save, Bravery 9, 14-inch move. Has a Aether Staff and Horns and Snapping Hooves, which are the same as the special character ones. So Lightning Orb is cast on a 6. Pick a point in the battlefield within 12. It's visible to them. Each enemy unit within 3 inches on a 4+ takes D3 mortal wounds. It's the same almost as the Lightning Breath in the Dracoths. Prime Electrodes, same as normal. And then Swift of Wing is his command ability. You can use this command ability at the start of the movement phase. If you do so, pick a friendly model with this command ability. Add 2 to the run rolls for friendly Sacrosanct units that were wholly within 18 inches of that model that started that phase. So he basically becomes the center of that, and then friendly units within 18 inches that are Sacrosanct get +2 to their runs. Kind of neat to get your first turn moving, basically. Lord Arcanum, who's basically the same. The Lord Arcanum on Dracoline just basically is the same, plus he gets a different spell and a different command ability. So he's the same as if he was riding a Griff Charger, but he has the Monstrous Claws from the Celestial Dracoline instead. So the same thing, 3s and 3s, 1-inch range, -1 and 1 damage, D3 on the charge. Also has the Cycle of the Storm and Spirit Flask, just like normal. And then his Stormlance spell is a casting value of 5. Pick a point in the battlefield within 12 inches and draw an imaginary line. On a 5+, everything under that line takes a mortal wound. So it's for every model you touch with that line. On a 5+, take a mortal wound. That unit takes a mortal wound. His command ability is Pack Alpha. Use this ability in the combat phase. If you do so, pick a friendly model with this command ability. Until the end of the phase, add one of the attack characteristics of the Monster Claws of friendly evocators with Dracoline mounts that are wholly within 18. So he leads the other Dracolines around, basically, and adds their attack characteristic. Lord Arcanum on Griff Charger, you've all seen. And then we're getting to stuff that's already existed. The one thing that has changed, it's important to note, is the Lord Ordinator's command ability. He's exactly the same, but his command ability has changed to a baby version of Lord of the Host from the Lord Celestin on Dracoth. It's called Solemn Duty, and it's if you have a Stormcast, if you use it during at the start of the battle effect phase, until the end of that phase, you don't have to make battle shock tests for friendly Stormcast friendly models that are wholly within 18 of them. He just rallies everybody in the battle shock phase. So no more double tap and Celestar Ballistas. We actually get that wrong in the battle report today because we didn't notice he changed. Because he was so new, I just assumed he was exactly the same as he was when he came out for Malign Importance. Because why would you not keep that ability? Because that ability is amazing. But no, they spoiled my fun. No double tap and Celestar Ballistas. Everything else is, we're going through here, pretty much the same. Astral Templars, Concussors, Desolators. I mean, there could be some changes in here, but I haven't noticed them. Liberators, of course, have the Redeemer tag. Adjudicators, Vanguards, Vanguard Paladors, Aether Wings. Celestar Ballistas, still the same as in the box set, and same with Sequitors. Evocators on Celestial Dracolines. So they are the mounted version of the Evocators from the Soul Wars box set. They're the other new unit. They get to, and I believe that kit's also going to make your mounted character version, so it'll probably make your Knight Incantor, or your Lord Arcanum on a Celestial Dracoline. It may also make the characters. I'm not 100% sure on that, but unless they do individual kits for them all, they might do a mixed kit that does some on Dracoline as well. I didn't see the Dracoline as a mount option for Lord Celestins, because there's a Lord Celestin on pretty much every other beastie. I'm gonna double check that right now. But I think it's only the mages actually get the Dracoline option. Lord Celestin on a Star Drake, Dracoth, yeah, he does not get an option of the Dracoline. So no Lord Celestins on Dracolines, it's just gonna be the Lord Arcanums. You get the 12-inch move, 5 wounds for your Evocators on Dracolines. 4+ save, 8 bravery, and then they have their Tempest Blade and Storm Stave, 1-inch range, 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 damage. Grand Stave for the, how many can have a Grand Stave? 2 in every 3 models can have a Grand Stave and just replace it. And then they have 3 attacks, 2-inch range, 3s and 3s, no rend and 2 damage. Monster's Claws on the Dracoline, same as all the other Monster's Claws. 3s and 3s, rend -1 with 3 attacks and 1 damage, but D3 on the charge. They get Celestial Lightning, reroll save rolls of 1 for attacks made with missile weapons that target this unit. In addition, each time this unit attacks, after all attacks are made, pick 1 enemy within 3 inches. If you do so, roll 2 dice for each model in this unit. On a 4+, take a mortal wound. They still get their lightning stabs like the Evocators do on foot. Supernatural Roar from the Dracolines, -1 bravery within 3. Thunderous Pounce, which is the D3 wounds. And then they are wizards with Empower, so they have the Empower of the Evocator unit as well. Now, the other 3 things that are new in this are 3 new endless spells. That's really cool. I'm excited that Battletomes going forward might have access to their own list of endless spells. We have the Celestian Vortex, which is the first one. It's predatory. It moves up to 8 inches. You can summon it on a 6+. Only Stormcaster and Wizards can summon this spell. It's set up wholly within 12 inches of the caster if it comes on. It's a Swirling Doom. It can immediately move when you set it up. Storm of Vengeance. After moving this model, pick an enemy unit within 1 inch of this model and roll 12 dice. For each roll of 6+, take a mortal wound. And if they're Chaos, it's 5+. So this is kind of like their version of Quicksilver Swords. And yeah, and only they get it. And then Tornado of Magic, -1 for hit rolls for attacks made by missile weapons by units that are within 6 inches of this model. So it's a slightly more disruptive one. You can send it into a shooting unit and they'd be -1 to hit. There's the Deus Arcanum, which is sort of their version of the Balewind Vortex. So summon a Deus Arcanum, has a casting value of 6, only Stormcast can do it. And they do not have, and they have to have a wound characteristic of 6 or more, are not part of a unit with 2 or more models, and are not already on Deus Arcanum. They can attempt to cast this spell. So they have to be babies. They have to be basically 5 wounds or less. Yep. If you cast it, set it up within 1 inch of the caster and then more than 3 inches of the enemy models, and then put them on top. So he just pops up on top like the Bellwind Vortex. As long as it remains on the battlefield, the Daedric Kingdom and the caster treat as a single model that uses their War Scroll as the enemy endless spell, as well as the endless spell rules. It's treated as an enemy model by opposing player's army. If you're on the Deus Arcanum, you have a move character of 12 and can fly. So your wizard basically just starts flying around a giant flying carpet. If the model is slain, the Deus Arcanum is immediately dispelled and removed from play. If it's dispelled and the model has not been slain, set it up wholly within 6 inches of the Deus Arcanum and more than 3 from enemy models, and then remove it from play. If it's impossible to do that, he's dead. So if you surround him, charge him, and then kill him, he just goes away. So the 6 inch like dismount basically will hopefully keep him alive. But if you can't get him outside of 3, he's dead too. And then the Arcane Enchantment, while a model in the Deus Arcanum can can unbind 1 extra spell in each hero phase. In addition, if a model is on a Deus Arcanum, attempts to dispel that Deus Arcanum, the attempt is automatically successful. You can cancel it yourself without having to roll. And then Winds of Aether, while a model is on a Deus Arcanum, add 1 to the save rolls for attacks that target that model. So you have a 2+ save for a Knight Incantor, which is pretty cool. And then you have the Everblaze Comet. The Everblaze Comet is a single model. You can summon it on a 6+, and of course only Stormcast can do it. If successfully cast, set it up wholly within 36 inches of the caster, so it just comes down to the sky. And then Burning Vengeance, after this model is set up, roll a die for each unit wholly within 10 of the model. Within 10, not even wholly within 10. On a 1 or 2, they take a mortal wound. On a 3/4, they take D3 mortal wounds. And on a 5/6, they take 3 mortal wounds. In addition, at the start of each battle round, roll a die for each unit within 5. And on a 1 to 3, they take a mortal wound. On a 4 to 6, they take D3 mortal wounds. And it's an Arcane Disruption. Subtract 1 from casting rolls for wizards while they're within 5 inches of the model. So if you have like a static enemy battle line, you just drop that thing out of the sky, it pulses, and then it just continues to do damage until someone dispels it, which is kind of cool. And those are our new units. So now let's talk about War Scroll Battalions. These are used in this book as a way of making the different chambers, military of the, or militant, I guess, of the Stormcast Eternals sort of distinct and unique. And each one is made up of 3 battalions and then a large chamber battalion that sort of incorporates the smaller ones together. So starting off, we have the War Scroll of the Sacrosanct Chamber, and it's broken down into 3 different battalions. The Grand Convocation, which is 1 Lord Arcanum, 1 Lord Exorcist, and 2+ Knights Incantor. And you get powers combined. Add 1 of the casting rolls for wizards from this battalion if they're wholly within 9 inches of 2 or more wizards from the same battalion. So if you use them as a little squad, they get plus the casting rolls. The Hailstorm Battery, 1 Lord Ordinator, 1 unit Castigators, and 1 Celestar Ballista. Hailstorm Strike, you can reroll fail hit rolls for attacks made by the Celestar Ballista from this battalion if the unit of Castigators from the same battalion inflicted 1 or more wounds. They basically become spotters, which I thought is kind of cool. And if you have a Lord Ordinator, it's basically available to you right out of the box, which is really cool. So that you've got a Sequitur unit, a Castigator unit, and you have a Ballista right there in the Soul Wars box set. So you've got Captain Mustache, giving +1 to hit to that thing, then hitting on like rapid firing 4+, rerolling failed hits. So that thing is gonna be amazing. It can't shoot twice anymore, but yes, and it's only, unfortunately, it's not more than 1 ballista. So you need a second Ordinator, a second unit of Castigators, and a second ballista to unlock this twice. I wish it could be 2 ballistas would be amazing. And then the Cleansing Phalanx, 2 units of Evocators and 2 units of Sequiturs. Channeled Empowerment, if a unit of Evocators from this battalion successfully casts their Empower spell on a unit of Sequiturs in the same battalion, and the spell is not unbound, you can reroll failed hit rolls for attacks made by that Sequitur's unit in addition to the effects of the spell. So you empower them, and they can also reroll failed hit rolls, which is pretty cool. And then finally, the Sacrosanct Chamber, like overarching battalion, the one that mixes them all together. You need 1 Grand Convocation, 3 Hailstorm Batteries, and 3 Cleansing Phalanxes. Again, these things, that's really big. I don't know if you'd ever use that in an actual game. But it's kind of neat. I mean, yeah, it's kind of neat. I mean, just a Grand Convocation with Lord Arcanum, a Lord Exorcist, and 2 Knights Incantor, you're looking at 600 points just for that one. And then the Castigators, Ballista, and Ordinators are together going to be 8320, and you need to have 3 of those. So you're talking about 960 plus about 500, and then you need 2 of the Cleansing Phalanxes too, and they're 400 plus 240, 600 points, so another 3 of those, 1,800 points just for the, it's your 2,700, you're at 3,500 points just to like fulfill the Sacrosanct Chamber ones. But if you do, you get a Celestial Fulcrum at the start of your hero phase, pick a Lord Arcanum, and that model can cast 1 additional spell in that hero phase. Yeah, I mean, they're cool. The baby battalions you'll probably use, but the big chamber ones, you're talking about like 3,500 point games, they're probably not going to use very often. The Vanguard Angelos Conclave. This was now the Vanguard Auxiliary Chamber ones. There's 2 different battalions. The Vanguard Angelos Conclave, 1 to 3 units of Vanguard Paladors, and 3 to 9 units of Vanguard Hunters. So that's kind of cool. 1 unit of the mounted guys, 3 to 9 units of the Vanguards on foot. When units from this battalion use Ride the Winds Etheric, roll 9 dice instead of 6 when moving them. That's pretty crazy. And then we have Vanguard Justicar Conclave, which is 3 units of Vanguard Raptors and 3 units of Aetherwings. Fight in Concert. You can reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by the missile weapons of Vanguard Raptors unit from this battalion if the target of the attack is within 18 inches of an Aetherwing unit from the same battalion. So the Aetherwings kind of go out and spot for the Vanguard Paladors. So the Vanguard Raptors, rather. And then when you combine them together in the Vanguard Auxiliary Chamber, you can have a Lord Aquilor, 3 9 units of Knight Azuros, Knights Venator, or Knights Zephyrus in any combination. So you have to have the Lord Aquilor and then 3 like heroes. And then 1 Vanguard Angelos Conclave and 1 Justicar Conclave. So 1 of each. It's actually possible to put this one in an army because it's not that many points. You get an Azurite Hurricane. Add 1 to the attacks characteristic of missile weapons used by models from this battalion that are not heroes. So your pistols become like 3 shots each, which is pretty cool. And there's the Extremis Chamber. This is definitely the most expensive one. If you thought the Sacrosanct Chamber was a lot of points to try and run it, this one's going to be bananas. So there's a Lightning Echelon, 2 units of Fulminators and 2 units of Tempesters. So you're talking about, oh geez, like 900 points for that one. Linebreaker Assault. Once per battle at the end of your charge phase, you can make a Linebreaker Assault with each of these units that made a charge in the charge phase. Pick 1 unit within 1 inch, they take D3 mortal wounds. So basically, once per game when they do their charge, they just impact and D3 mortal wounds. The Thunderwave Echelon, which is 2 units of Concussors and 2 units of Desolators. So again, we're talking about like 900 points. Ride of the Annihilators. Some of these names are just bananas. Subtract 1 from the bravery characteristic of enemy units that are within 3 inches of 1 or more units of the same battalion. So basically what the Lions get, you can give it to the Concussors and Desolators. And then the Drake Sworn Temple. 3 Drake Sworn Templars. And they're like 420 points each. So you're talking about a 1,200 point battalion. Once per battle, if you're here in your hero phase, you can summon a Celestial Wave. If you do so, each unit within 3 inches of any models from this battalion is caught in the wave. They take D3 mortal wounds and then heal D3 wounds allocated to each friendly Stormcast friendly unit caught in the Celestial Wave. So the Stormcast all heal and the bad guys all take mortal wounds. And then if you want to take the Extremis Chamber as the big battalion, it's Lord Celestin on Stardrake or Lord Celestin on Dracoth, 1 Lightning Echelon, 1 Thunderwave Echelon, and 1 Drakesworn Temple. So you're talking about 1,800 plus 1,300, 3,100, about 3,500 points for that one. Plus the cost of all the battalions. Yeah. And then you got some kind of slightly more bananas ones, which is the Warrior Chamber, the Harbinger Chamber, and the Exemplar Chamber. And then they are all 3 of them mixes of these 3 battalions. So Lords of the Storm, which is a Lord Celestant, a Lord Relictor, a unit of Gryph-hounds, 1 to 4 Lord Castellans or Lord Veritans in any combination, and 3 to 5 Knight Heralders, Vexillers, Zeros, or Venators in any combination. They get Stormborn Commanders at the start of your hero phase. If any heroes from this battalion are on the battlefield on a 4+, you get extra command points. You're paying points to basically maybe get an extra command point plus the command point from the battalion. The Thunderhead Brotherhood, which is 3 units of Liberators and 2 units of Judicators, and they get a Sigmarite Shield Wall, reroll saves of 1 for targets that attack Judicators from this battalion that are wholly within 3 inches of Liberators that are carrying a Sigmarite War Shield. So your Liberators basically give their reroll 1s to the Judicators nearby. And then a Hammer Strike Force, 2 units of any Paladin units, and then 1 unit of Prosecutors. In your hero phase, you can pick 1 unit of Paladins. It's wholly within 9 inches of the unit of Prosecutors in the same battalion. If you do so, add +1 to wound rolls for attacks made by the unit that you pick until the end of the turn. A Celestial Supercharge. So the Prosecutors basically blow up the Paladins and make them better at fighting. That one's kind of cool. That one I could see myself using because the requirement isn't super steep. And then the Exemplar Chamber is a Lord of the Storm and then 3 Devastation Brotherhoods from previous. That one has Martial Bond. If a unit from this battalion is destroyed in the combat phase, pick another unit from the same battalion and add 1 to their attacks characteristic. The Harbinger Chamber, which is a Lord of the Storm and 3 Vanguard Wings. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made from models in this battalion. Kind of neat, all the heroes and then all the Protector guys. And then finally the Warrior Chamber, which is Lord of the Storm, 3 Thunderhead Brotherhoods, and 3 Hammer Strike Forces. That one's a lot of points. It's Wrath of the Storm. You can reroll failed wound rolls for attacks made by models in this battalion when there's more than 50 models from the same battalion in the battlefield. It's gonna be a lot of guys, because it's a whole lot of Liberators and a whole lot of Judicators. And that is it for War Scroll battalions. So last but not least, we have some point values. Of course, the General's Handbook 2018 comes out today as you're seeing this review. So they're all in there. So if you want to grab the point values for all the stuff in this book, they're already printed in there and they're all the same. I will, however, tell you about the new units and their point values. So of course, you have Aventus Fire Strike, 360 points. Astrea Soulbright is 220 points. We also have the... where are you? Lord Arcanum on Torlon, which you've seen. Draculon, which you've seen. Like everything else has already been shown off. It's just the special characters that I'm not 100% sure we're shown off or not. And of course, the new spells, everybody's comment and stuff were in there as well. So I don't think there's anything else that really is new that you haven't seen in the General's Handbook that's out today. So there is my overview. Of course, there's also battle plans in this book. You have all of your Path to Glory rules as well for running a Path to Glory campaign using Stormcast Eternals. That's been put into the main books now as opposed to being just sitting in the General's Handbook where it used to be. And that is it. So I hope you enjoyed that. Now you can check out, of course, the review of the Night Haunts Battletome, linked below, which also goes up for pre-order today, as well as a battle report between the Night Haunts and the Stormcast Eternals, which is also linked down there between myself, with Owen captaining my Stormcast Eternal army and myself playing the new Night Haunts. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this review. We'll see you for more in the future. Ton of Ash. Stop working me. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to support the channel, of course, like and subscribe and hit the little bell below so you get notifications when I post future content. I do post stuff 7 days a week. If you want to support the channel further, you can, of course, buy a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, buy a measuring gauge or objective markers from Death Ray Designs, or, of course, most importantly, there is Patreon. Patreon is what makes all this possible, keeps the lights on, pays for the studio costs, pays for the equipment, model costs, and everything else, and most importantly, puts food in my kids' bellies and a roof over their heads. Big thanks to everyone, past, future, who supported me. I do this stuff because of you guys, and of course, I will continue doing it as long as I can.